Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer again. It's been a while since I've been around, but had a hard drive crash, so I had to replace my hard drive. Just got a new solid state drive and a nice Seagate drive. Anyway, I'm going to be looking at Scourge of War Gettysburg again. I think this is the first actual battle in Gettysburg that I've done. The other battles have been the map pack, Antietam map pack. But I'm doing a little bit differently. The game has a setting called, well, it's called by the player's hits, which is headquarters in the saddle. The concept is that your character, you set the settings so that you cannot zoom out from your commanding character or from your general more than a certain amount, which basically makes it like you're in the saddle. As you see here, this is maybe a little bit, maybe if you were a 15-foot general instead of a 6-foot general, but still. Essentially as close as you can get in this game, or any game that I'm aware of, where you can get as close as you can to what it would have been like to be a general. So I'm playing the Iron Brigade Scenario, and I'm playing on the Gruggenard, if that's how you pronounce it, difficulty level. Any order you send to your units has to be sent by courier unless you're within a very short distance, in which case it would kind of be like you shouting to your men. As you saw, those couriers sent out to my regiments who are now marching off behind me. And it is, I think it's called Blood in the Cut? Blood in the Run? Basically, it's the Iron Brigade's first engagement on the Union left on day one of Gettysburg, where Meredith commanded the Iron Brigade, one of the most famous Union regiments of the time, and we're marching toward McPherson's Woods right now. This is about a 30-minute scenario. I cut it down a bit for this, and yeah, so this is just kind of, you're seeing the gameplay here. Chose to do this battle and chose to do these settings because, one, it's something that is very unique and I hadn't touched on in previous battles, and to be honest, two, I play a form-based Civil War game. There are a lot of people. It's a great game. The administration there is probably the best of any form game I've ever run into online. The head admin has been doing these games for about 6 years. Not to suck up to them, because I'm actually going to be posting this video in there later. But I think a lot of the people who play kind of, you get a tabletop sort of view, kind of a, well, here are my men, I'm going to tell them go do this, I'm going to go tell them do that, and there's really no kind of concept of what it's really like to be on the ground. And so I decided, let's use this scenario to show them how confused and muddled even just commanding a lowly brigade of, what is this, like 4 regiments, 5 regiments, can be, and how disconnected you can feel from the rest of the battle. And then imagine what a division commander is going through, and then multiply that by what a corps commander is going through. Army commander might be a little bit different because they kind of have a semblance, in some cases. At Gettysburg, for example, Meade had a nice stationary position after day one, and you could theoretically say it was more of a tabletop style of command with markers and units on brigades, or on maps and things like that at the headquarters, but certainly not like that for the brigade or division commanders. Let's speed things up here a bit. So, there you have General Reynolds off on the right a bit there. This is a Corps Commander flag. So, I mean, not to get sidetracked, but my men are still moving into position. But yeah, I mean, one of the unique things, and here's the courier system. I can go ahead and send some couriers. So what I'm actually going to do real quick, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to send an order, or not an order, but a request to General Cutler's brigade, which is off to the right, and forward a bit at McPherson's farm to support my right flank. Hopefully he can come in and link up, because I'm kind of advancing into these woods here. I don't really know where the rebel position is. I'm pretty much blind. I just know they're in front of me somewhere. And I've got a good sized brigade, but you don't want to be advancing without any support on your flanks. So send a quick courier to Cutler here to try and get him to support my right. Now, I haven't been able to see in this game really, at least on the brigade level scenarios, how effective couriers are at getting men to follow you. I do know that in the higher level commands, you send couriers to your units and they'll listen to you. And obviously, if you're in command of a full army, which is one of the scenarios in the Antietam map pack where you play Lee for all 11 hours, obviously everyone's going to at least acknowledge your orders. But anyway, send an order or a request off to Cutler to support my right as I attack into the woods, now that I'm getting into position. And there you see the courier rides off. So his men won't actually move until, if they even decide to listen to me, they won't move till the courier gets there. It's another one of those realism elements as we see my men filing into position here in this corn or wheat field as I prepare to attack. One of those elements of this game that really makes it unique. But yeah, I was talking about kind of how, at least in my experience in forum-based games and kind of tabletop games, most people really kind of lose the semblance of what it was like to be on the ground. I think that's a great thing about this game, and this option in this game is to kind of see that. Obviously, you're not a private soldier, you're a general on a horseback, but still, I mean, looking around this map, you can see it pretty decent ways, but I mean, even straight ahead, these woods, and there's some game markers that may block some vision, but there's these woods up here. I mean, I can kind of see some rebels up there, but I mean, I just have a faint idea of what's up there. I've never played this scenario before, so I really have no idea what's up there. I know they're up there because I know a little bit about, you know, the Battle of Gettysburg, but it just does a phenomenal job. I mean, you really feel isolated, and you'll see that a little bit more here in a little bit. And here's an example of what I was talking about. I can see these rebel units out in front of me. My men are marching into position, but I don't, you know, I'm kind of marching with my flank. It could be a little bit exposed. You see there's my men off to the right, but these rebels are up, looks like behind some fences up there. I see some smoke, so they're firing at someone. Maybe they're Cutler's men off to the right. But this is just a perfect example of, well, you're a brigade commander. You're on your own. You might have orders from division, but in a lot of cases like this, you're just cut off. If you're in a wooded area, you might not be able to see all the units. So in there, I mean, if I want to quickly adjust and quickly move just a brigade over and adjust the orders like I'm giving them, I got to send couriers out, or I got to ride personally, and that takes time. This is all sped up, definitely, because it's still a video game. I mean, the orders are basically given instantaneously. But imagine this, you know, this is 4 regiments. Imagine you have 100 regiments that you're trying to control. There's a good reason that an army commander doesn't tell every regiment where to go, but at the same time, you know, I think something that's overrated is the best commanders are not, in my opinion, often just the best tacticians. I think McClellan was probably the best tactically, or well, maybe not the best tactically, but maybe the best army commander at the tactical level. You know, Lee really very rarely caught him out of position, and if he did, McClellan was typically able to adjust. Now, McClellan's key failure was his inability to visualize the battlefield, and that he was so paranoid that the rebels had so many more forces, he blinded himself to opportunities on the battlefield, and he always seemed to envision the enemy was about to crush him, and it really hampered his command. And you know, because he couldn't really, I guess, have a realistic view of the battlefield, he didn't meet with a whole lot of success. Being able to visualize, and I could just be talking out of my ass here, but being able to visualize what the enemy's doing and where everything is, I think, is probably the most important thing. Lee really struggled at Gettysburg in some cases, and it almost seemed like he was detached. He didn't know what was going on. I don't think you can underestimate the value of cavalry, and he went into this battle blind because his cavalry was off doing, you know, other things. And I think that's one of those things that's overlooked, is how important it is to have a semblance of an idea where your enemy is, because if you're in a wooded terrain like this, I mean, what are you going to do? And a brigade commander can't get a sense in this battle what's going on around him when we're not even fighting yet, let alone an army commander. And if you thought that was bad, now, fast forwarding a bit here, but now, I mean, You thought it was bad before, now there's the smoke and din of battle as the men begin to get into position and begin to engage the rebels. I still can't really see the rebels all that well. They're behind a fence. I have no idea where their flanks are. I can't really see it. There's a bit of a rise that they're hiding behind. I mean, they could be maneuvering into my flank for all I know, and I wouldn't know it until it's probably too late. Looking off there, I mean, they're straight ahead. There's a good deal of smoke. And that's, you know, the smoke here is greatly scaled down over what it would have been in real life. It would have been a heck of a lot harder to see, especially in a wooded area, especially in the hot summer heat. That would kind of keep the smoke to a din and keep it low to the ground. And, I mean, I think that's something that, I know I'm just kind of rambling on about it, but this game does something this better than any game I've ever seen before, is really kind of puts you in that place. If you play at this level, at this difficulty level, you know, I'm commanding, 5 regiments. Seriously, I mean, I don't know if the rebels are about to come through the left. I thought they were. That's why I left that regiment there off to the left, not engaged. And you really can't know. You know, it's important to keep a good eye on them, but at a brigade level or even a division level, it's so hard to get an idea of what's going on around you, and then just compound that. You know, every chain you go up, the chain of command, things become more difficult to really put together. You know, at Gettysburg, the armies were very, for the time anyway, very well trained. Maybe perhaps, you know, the cream of the rebel crop at Gettysburg, and similarly for the Army of the Potomac. And yet, at times, if you read about it, it was just like a brawl. I mean, a commander would tell a unit to go somewhere, and then at that point, often they would basically lose all effective control. Brigade commanders retain some control over their units, but Gettysburg is a great example of that. The movie Gettysburg, where, you know, they focus so much on the 20th Maine on the second day of the battle, and it's almost like that is the entire battle. But there was so much more that movie left out that was going on all around him. You never see Chamberlain's brigade commander after they get deployed. He comes up and tells them to hold the ground. You never see him again. I mean, he dies. I think you hear that at some point in the battle, but just the vastness and the difficulty of command. So much was placed on the brigade and regimental commander's head, and so much went beyond the army commander's knowledge. The perception of, you know, we look at the atlases of battles where you see the right flank and the left flank moves here and there as if it was some orderly parade, and the commanders, you know, Lee and Jackson and Longstreet all had this overriding control over their corps and their armies, and that's a myth. And I think that's, you know, there's a lot of history that's done that focuses on the personal, what it was like for an individual soldier. There's a lot of histories that are written about the overall commanders, but I think something that's missed is the fog of battle. You kind of get it when you focus on the individuals. I think you can definitely get a semblance of it, but considering these huge battles and the lack of, not control, because the commanders had control, but just a lot of times it had to have been guesswork. You know, you thought the enemy was there, you weren't really sure, you thought you might be able to do something about it, and you acted. It wasn't quite as bad as, you know, I don't know if modern era is the right word, where you come up with a plan and as soon as the battle, you know, commenced, you lost all effective command and control, because maybe it's not as hectic perhaps as I'm making it out to be, but it certainly wasn't as orderly and neat as I guess most movies or most higher level books would have you believe. I think one of the things that often gets overlooked about Robert E. Lee It's not that he was the best tactician, but that he was able to get a sense of his commanders and his subordinates, and he was able to put people he knew would do a good job in the right positions. Longstreet and Jackson were not, corps commanders from the start, and the Army of the Northern Virginia had a lot of growing pains through the early days under Lee. But he weeded out the commanders that wouldn't work with him, and he put the right commanders in charge. He split the army into corps and put the guys that he knew would be effective. And his two best lieutenants were Lee and Longstreet, or were Jackson and Longstreet. And I think 2nd Manassas is probably the perfect example of kind of that hectic. And I am driving the rebels off here, by the way. I guess that's another great thing about this game and this kind of style of play is that you really don't even get a sense for what's going on. I already mentioned I don't know what's going around me. I think I see smoke beyond the hill. I think maybe Cutler came to my aid a bit, and maybe that's why we're pushing the rebels back. I'm not sure, but that's one of those, as a brigade commander and any individual general on the ground, it's hard to get a sense of what exactly is going on. Kind of along the lines of the movie Gettysburg, where Lee says the second day was close and Longstreet told him it wasn't that close. It's really hard to tell when you're winning and when you're losing unless you're either really, really winning and the enemy is just routed, or you're really, really losing and your army's crumbling around. You see that with General Hooker at Chancellorsville, where he lost all seeming semblance of command at the shock of the attack, and everything just broke down. It's not that men would be cowards and run, it's that there was no command and control because no one knew the full picture of what was going on the Union side. And the Confederates lost total command and control. It's how generals get lost and shot by their own men. Jackson and Longstreet both were shot by their own men, and got lost and intermingled in the lines. I mean, when you kind of see the battlefield this way at this low a level, you can see how that could easily happen. We've got another video that I might post later that kind of shows what that would like. God help the couriers. I mean, if you got a wrong turn, you were in trouble. But as I was saying, I think Lee's greatest ability was his ability to put the right people in the right place to do well. Not that he knew everything that was going on around him. I think he had a better perception of that than others. But his ability to put the right people to make the right decisions in the right places. And 2nd Manassas was the perfect example of that. Where Lee was able to detach Jackson, and Jackson was able to get his command into a good defensive position, and Lee was able to really delegate. He let Jackson basically fight on his own on the Confederate left. He let Longstreet bring his corps up essentially on his own, on his initiative. And then the Union kept attacking. Longstreet moved into a great position on Jackson's right. He trusted Longstreet and Jackson to hold their positions. When Jackson asked for reinforcements, he trusted when Longstreet didn't send any, although he did, he was apparently very nervous, at least according to Shelby Foote, about it. And then when the time came for the Confederate counterattack at 2nd Manassas, when the Union assault was broken and their flank was exposed, Longstreet actually ordered the attack to go ahead before Lee's courier had arrived. He had put the commanders in the right positions to succeed and to use their own initiative to succeed. And that, I think, more than anything, was Lee's brilliance. And when you see knowing who to put where in what situation, it would best allow them to succeed. And that is when you start seeing the Army of Northern Virginia break down, is when the lieutenants are not available. In the second half, and after the Wilderness and the Overland campaign, when Jackson is dead and Longstreet's critically wounded and Hill's suffering from sickness, that is when the Army of the Potomac breaks down, is when Lee has to take charge of far too much, and he's overwhelmed. But anyway, this is kind of what the headquarters in the saddle looks like here in Scourge of War Gettysburg. I've won a victory. The rebels have been driven off. yeah, if you like this, check out some of my other videos. The other Scourge of War videos dealing with Antietam do show a kind of a more top-down traditional game approach, so if that's something you're interested, check that out. But have a great day, and like this, and if you'd like some more, subscribe.